Today we are working on lesson 10.2, use mental math to multiply. I want you to turn to page 385 in your math book. I want you to look at the solve and share. Here's what we need to do. Find the products of 4 times 5, 3 times 40, and 9 times 20. Describe the patterns you find. So I want you to work on that. So what we want to do is we want to find the products of 4 times 50, 3 times 40, and 9 times 20. Describe the patterns you find. So I want you to work on that. I want you to do your work in your work area. Pause the video, and then we're going to stop and answer that together. Do that right now. Okay, so here's some of the answers you may have found, boys and girls. So 4 times 5, what is 4 times 5? Oh, let me get a pen here. So let's see. We know that 4 times 5 equals 200. Okay, did you get that, boys and girls? 3 times 4 or 3 times 40, I should say, equals 120. A little hard to write with doing it like this. And 9 times 20 equals 180. And what we want to do is we want to describe the patterns that we found. And this is how we found it. So the product for each problem is found by multiplying the one digit, the one digit number by the number of tens. So I multiplied 4 times 5, 3 times 4, and then 9 times 2 to figure that out. Remember, we discussed doing that yesterday. So I'm going to type that so we know what we did here. And then you can, let's see, can I move this someplace? I don't know if I can move that. So I'm going to type that and then I'm going to move that. So the product for each problem is found by multiplying the one digit number by the number of tens. So I multiplied that by the number of tens to get our product. 4 times 5 equals the 200. So I multiplied that. So that's how we did that. So what we're going to be working on today, boys and girls, is using our mental math to multiply so we don't have to use our pencil and paper. So let's get going, and we're going to watch our solve and share, and we are going to stop and talk about it as we're watching it.
How can place value help you use mental math to multiply by a multiple of 10? A regular box of crayons has 30 crayons. A jumbo box holds 60 crayons. There are 5 boxes of regular crayons on one shelf and 5 boxes of jumbo crayons on another shelf. How many crayons are on each shelf? Find 5 times 30. You can use basic multiplication facts to multiply by multiples of 10. Think about tens. Multiply 5 by the number of tens. 5 times 30 equals 5 times 3 tens, or 15 tens, or 150. There are 150 crayons on one shelf.
Okay, so we were able to find out how many tens or how many crayons were on one of the shelves. So we still need to find out how many crayons are on the other shelf. Do you see how we did that? We needed to find out 5 times 30. So we're thinking about the tens. So we're going to multiply 5 by the number of tens. So to figure out 5 times 30, it's easy to figure out 5 times 3 tens. 5 times 3 equals 15 tens. 5 times 30 equals 150. We practiced doing that yesterday. 5 times 30 is 150. So we multiply the 5 times the 3, which equals 15, and then we added the 0 for the 30 tens, or the 3 tens for the 30. So we added that 0 there because we have got 30 tens. There are 150 crayons on one shelf. 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. 150 crayons.
Now find 5 times 60. 5 times 60 equals 5 times 6 tens. What is the product of 5 times 60?
Okay,
Select your answer.
So we want to know what the product of 5 times 60 is. So what are we going to do? We are going to multiply. We're going to use our basic fact of 5 times 6. What is 5 times 6? 5 times 6 is what? 5 times 6 is 30, but we have the 6 tens. What is that going to equal? Is it going to equal 3, 30, 300, or 3,000? So we're going to use our basic fact of 5 times 6, but we know that answer isn't 30, it's what? Because we have 6 tens. So we have to remember to do what here? It's going to be 300 because we're multiplying it by 6 tens. So we have a 0 here. So 5 times 6 tens is going to be 300.
Sometimes the basic multiplication fact makes the product look different. 5 times 60 equals 30 tens, or 300. There are 300 crayons on the other shelf.
Okay, so now let's work on our convince me. It says suppose there were 50 crayons in each of the 5 boxes. Use mental math to find 5 times 50. How many crayons are in 5 boxes? So here are our 5 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's 50 crayons in each of those boxes. So what are we going to do here? We are going to figure out what is our equation going to be. Our equation is going to be 5, right, times 50 is going to equal what? So we're going to do 5 times 5 equals what? 25. And then we're going to have what? 25 tens. So what do we have to add on the end of it? 0. So we're going to have 250 crayons. So we could put 250 crayons there. Okay, so let's move on. Now we have our do you understand? It says, how can you find the product of 9 times 80? Explain. So, here's what we can do. I think instead of typing all this, or writing it, I think I'm going to type over here. So it says, how can you find the product of 9 times 8? So what can we do, boys and girls? We can use our basic fact. So let's say that. So I can use the basic fact and what basic fact are we going to use? We're going to use that 9 times 8. The basic fact, 9, let's see, where's my, times 8, which equals what? What does that equal? It equals 72. To find how many tens we're going to need. Okay, so that's going to be our starting point to figure this out. That's going to be our starting point to figure out 9 times 80. So then we're going to do 9 times 80 equals 720 is how we're going to figure that out. Let me move that over here. Okay. Can we make that smaller? There we go. Now, John says 4 times 6 is 4 groups of 6 ones. 4 times 6 equals 24. Complete the sentences to describe 4 times 60 in a similar way. 4 times 60 is 4 groups of 6, what? 6 what? It's going to be 4 groups of 6, 4 groups of 6 tens. We have 4 groups of 6 tens. That's what that is going to be, 4 groups of 6 tens. 4 times 60 equals, what do you think it is? 4 times 60 equals, think of what 4 times 6 equals. What does 4 times 6 equal? And then you think of what 4 times 60 is going to equal. What does that equal? 240. Okay. So now we have to think about what our basic facts are here. So now we're going to think about what our basic facts are for 3 through 8. And then we're going to think about them through 9 through 19. So I'm going to do an example here. I'm going to do 3 and 4, and then you're going to do the rest of them. So let's look at number 3. We have 6 times 6, which is what? 6 times 6. I'm just going to do that like this. So 6 times, no, maybe I'll do this. So 6 times 6 is 36. So that means 6 times 60 is going to be 360. because we have 36 tens. Okay? Now we've got, oh, I can't do that. Now we have 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 20 is going to be 60 because we have here we have 2 tens. 3 times 2 tens is going to be 60. Three times 20 is 60. So I'm going to have you complete the rest of page 387 and page 388, plus you have the practice buddy for this page. That's what you're going to do for the rest of your math today. So you can pause this to help you finish this page. You will tear this out to hand it in for your e-learning homework. So you will tear this out.